Daylight never truly touched Ravanos' castle. It crept towards the stone walls each morning, pale and cautious. The outer towers glowed briefly at dawn, then dulled into gray as ancient magic tightened around the stone. Isabella slept through the daylight hours now, unnaturally still beside Ravanos, her hand resting on his chest, fully his now. Marco kneeled up in his bed, watching her face, searching desperately for something familiar, something human. The castle breathed around him. Wood creaked softly. Somewhere deep below, water dripped slow. He turned to leave, trembling, and his foot struck a low table. Wood shattered against stone, metal clattered. The sound exploded down the corridor. Marco froze, his breath locked in his chest. His heart thundered so loudly, he was sure the vampires would hear and discover him out of bed. Isabella stirred. Her head turned slowly, her eyes open, bright and alert, inhaling sharply as if tasting Marco. He pressed himself into the shadowed corner, silent, unmoving, waiting for her to rise, waiting for her voice to speak his name. Ravanos did not move. After a long, unbearable moment, Isabella's gaze softened, and her eyes drifted closed again. Marco ran, barefoot through servant corridors and forgotten stairs, sobbing without sound, chased by shadows. He ran until his lungs burned, and the castle became a black shape on the hills behind him. Even distant, Ravanos felt present, watching, patient, like a predator that didn't need to hurry. Antonio recruited men in a village. In the bright sun, everyone felt safer. Old soldiers, farmers, smugglers, whispering of a monster and a chance to kill it. Marco burst in, filthy and shaking, eyes wide with terror, collapsing into Antonio's arms. The boy could barely speak, only pointing back toward the hills, sobbing, trembling, as if the vampire still had its hands on him. Antonio listened, dread hardening into resolve, and the men traded glances. Antonio hid Marco deep in the countryside, in an old farmhouse beneath twisted olive trees and a collapsing stone wall. A solitary woman lived there. She asked no questions, wrapped Marco in blankets, barred the door at sunset, and whispered prayers while he screamed through the night. Marco woke, clawing at the air, convinced Isabella stood over him smiling, convinced the walls were closing in again. Antonio watched helplessly, guilt hollowing his chest, telling himself Isabella was taken. She might be enchanted, but she was still capable of being saved. When Isabella woke and found Marco gone, the castle felt wrong. Where was her boy? She moved room to room, faster and faster, until her searching became a kind of fury. When she understood Marco had fled, her grief sharpened into rage, cold, focused rage. "He was mine," Isabella said, the words quiet but absolute. Ravanos' smile was patient, almost tender, as if he had been waiting for her to say it. He stepped close enough for her to feel the chill of him, and whispered, "Everything in the world is ours. The boy, the earth, the blood." His fingers lifted her chin, and each other. They ruled the night, they ruled the countryside as they hunted beneath an open sky. They found a young woman alone on a narrow road, clutching a shawl tied around her shoulders. She tried to laugh when Ravanos greeted her, like laughter could turn strangers into safety. Ravanos and Isabella began to dance together, slow and intimate, smiling as if nothing else existed. They spun with practiced grace, close enough to whisper, close enough to kiss, and they never once looked at the young woman watching them. Her nervous laughter thinned. Something about their joy felt wrong. Too calm, too hungry. Like wolves wearing wedding clothes. Only then did Isabella extend her hand. "Come," she said. "Don't be afraid." They danced in a slow circle. Isabella's voice was warm, familiar, comforting, until she pulled the woman close. There was no scream, only silence. When it was over, Ravanos drew Isabella into him, and they kissed fiercely, Isabella soaked in blood. At dawn, men came to the castle with crowbars and axes, determined to get in and kill, but Ravanos had cast a magic spell that kept them from entry. After hours, they knew they would have to return in the night. Antonio returned after dark with 10 men, determined to send the monster back to hell and rescue Isabella. He gripped his ancient dagger, etched with forbidden symbols. Ravanos met them in the courtyard, moving like a living shadow. Blades rang uselessly. Men fell screaming as darkness obeyed the vampire's will. One by one, Ravanos dismantled them, breaking bodies, sending them to hell. The courtyard echoed with nothing but death and terror. A wounded man fled toward the gate. Isabella caught him calmly and returned moments later, wiping her mouth as though finishing a quiet errand. Only Antonio remained, standing among bodies, trembling, clutching the forbidden dagger, whispering prayers he no longer fully believed. Where is Ravanos, he thought. From the shadows above, Ravanos watched, amusement curling slowly across his ancient face. Let my Isabella finish him, he thought. Isabella stepped into the torchlight. Relief flooded Antonio's face. He cautiously whispered her name, scared that Ravanos would discover them. She moved closer, touching his arm, her voice low and intimate, telling him she had waited, telling him she was afraid of Ravanos too. Antonio believed her. He showed her the dagger, whispering of plans of ending the nightmare together. She smiled, drew nearer, her body warm and familiar. Her hand slid to his chest, as if offering safety. He leaned in, convinced, ready to kiss her. Never seeing the change in her eyes, never sensing the truth. Pain bloomed, the world collapsed. Antonio fell without understanding, the dagger slipping from his hand. Ravanos laughed as Isabella savored the ecstasy of the kill.